Omid goes on to explain this time on November 29th, when Camilla was hosting a violence against women and girls reception at Buckingham Palace. And it was a high-profile effort for one of Camilla's cherished causes and an issue for which she advocated over the course of her royal tenure. It was declared a success by many who attended, and it was a reminder of what Camilla is capable of offering in her new role, and an event that signaled the firm had the ability to stick its neck out to advance a pertinent, substantial, and brave cause, even though they don't do it often enough. That's one of our first little backhands from Omid Scobie, the first of many. But this whole thing, this whole event, which should have gone off swimmingly, and which everybody else said was a success, was completely destroyed when an individual named Ngozi Fulani, a British citizen born in London, of African heritage and Caribbean descent, and CEO of Sister Space, a London-based charity that offers support to women and girls of African and Caribbean heritage affected by domestic and sexual abuse, noted that her experience was vastly different from the positive press surrounding it. Mixed feelings, she lamented on Twitter, revealing that within 10 minutes of arriving, a staff member she referred to as Lady SH had touched her dreadlocks without permission and persistently asked her where she was really from. The aide was Lady Susan Hussey, an 83-year-old lady-in-waiting from Queen Elizabeth II's reign, who had recently been moved into a non-salaried position of a lady of the household, a role that required her to attend Buckingham Palace engagements and mingle with guests. So, let me just say this real quick. This book, in the opening sentence, describing Ngozi Fulani, tells us that she is born in London, but is of African heritage and Caribbean descent. That's the opening sentence. So they already think that her heritage is important enough to mention. Not only is her heritage important to her, but it's important to the London-based charity that she was the CEO of, this Sister Space, which offers support to women and girls of African and Caribbean heritage affected by domestic violence. So, in the description of this woman, her heritage is of some importance. At least Omid Scobie believes that it is, and that he has to mention it to you. So, by this woman's own definition, by the way she would describe what she does, and in Omid Scobie's description of her, he has already mentioned that she's African and of Caribbean descent. So, let me just say that. All right, so the complaint is then detailed because God forbid she not jump on Twitter and just say that I've had mixed feelings because I was harassed at this event. You know, she throws that out there. She wants everybody's attention about it. She wants everyone to rally around her and to care deeply about what she says was a super offensive situation. So in a transcript shared by Fulani, so she's putting all this out there. Nobody's forcing her to talk about this. She's putting all this out there. She detailed how Hussey had pestered her about her background and asked her at least 7 times where she was from. After Fulani told her she was British, Hussey pushed back with the follow-up question. No, where do your people come from? Even after she expressed exasperation and questioned the Queen's former confidant. My people? Lady, what is this? Hussey continued her offensive inquisition, exclaiming, Oh, I see, I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here? Okay. I don't think any of you guys are going to be like, which way is she going to go? Who is she going to side with here? Not Fulani. I just can't even believe that you'd be this offended by somebody asking you where you're from. When in the definition of your own organization, you say that it's for people of African and Caribbean descent. Obviously, your race matters to you. So why would you be offended by somebody showing interest in you? Your charity is based on helping people from the same countries you hail from or that your descendants are from. It's not for London women who have been abused. It's for women of the same race and descent as yourself. So that must matter to you. And because that must matter to you, since you're here at this event under that banner, what is the offense of Lady Susan Hussey saying? So where are you from? Where are your people from? Wanting to show a genuine interest in you. Since when was that like a really offensive thing? Also, I've never understood why it was so offensive for people to notice or mention your hair. Now, a person could say, I didn't really like it when she touched my hair just because like personal space. You know, it's like sometimes people can get a little close, but sometimes older people do stand close to you and are a little bit in your space because they can't hear you. So just be gracious, be kind. And I don't know what the whole situation with the dreadlocks is. Is it possible that she was saying, I like your hair, it's really pretty, and then, reached out to touch it? Like, I just, to me, it's like, to decide that that's a microaggression that you're going to get your panties in a wad about and you're going to run home and be like, mixed feelings on Twitter, that's your own fault. If you had a bad time because you were so busy in your own head, you're so self-centered that you decided to make this lady's inquiry about you because she's trying to be interested in you, because she's trying to carry on a conversation with you. She doesn't know you. What is she going to talk to you about? She's trying to start a dialogue with you. She's trying to start a conversation. And you clearly think that your race is important because you set your charity up with those parameters. I just don't understand how now it's offensive that somebody's noticing. Okay, well, Scobie wants to say that this awkward and shocking conversation witnessed by the leader of the British Women's Equality Party, Mandu Reid, amounted to a privileged white aristocrat berating a black woman about her origins while refusing to believe she was only a British citizen. Of course she was accepting she was a British citizen, but she obviously is not from England. And do we need a history lesson? Obviously, she's not from England. So nobody's saying that, you're here illegally, we need to call up some authorities and have you deported. She was asking, where are you from? This book goes on to say that Hussey's casual racism, be it conscious or not only scuttled Camilla's successful event, shifting the focus from a noble cause to controversy, it also came at a time when the royal family was still digging out from Harry and Meghan's revelation in their March 2021 Oprah interview that concerns and conversations were had in the family about how dark the skin of their unborn Archie might be. Y'all know how I feel about this. Don't come at me telling me that conversation was racist. It was not racist. Okay, you guys, this is beyond the beyonds. Hussey is not a member of the royal family. She might be good friends with the royal family, but her decisions have nothing to do with what Charles would do, with what Camilla would do, with what William would do. There's really just no reason to be so offended by this whole scenario. First of all, it's not an offensive scenario. But secondly, to just play into and be like, racism. Okay, well, then that's sad if you would go through life looking at a situation like this as racism, because you're going to have a very hard time walking down the street and not encountering racism. The book goes on to say that Hussey's episode marred an otherwise meaningful royal engagement. And Fulani says that standing there in a room packed with people while this violation was taking place was so strange, especially as the event was about violence against women. She says, that feeling of not knowing what to do will never leave me. Almost alone in a room full of advocates. Well, you didn't know what to do. Why don't you just answer the question? Why did she double down? Why did she decide that she was going to not allow the conversation to move forward? She wanted to sit in that situation and marinate in it. She wanted to make it worse. She wanted to get Susan Hussey to ask her over and over again so that she could say, she asked me 7 times. You made her because you wouldn't just answer the damn question. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from the Caribbean. Oh, what part? Well, my people are from blah, blah, blah. And then you could have just moved on. If this was so uncomfortable for you, why didn't you move the conversation along? Did your brain just stop working? Answer the question and move on if you really hate the question. But more importantly, why would you hate that question? Why would you look at that as offensive? How does this person go through life? If that would be an offensive question, what isn't an offensive question? I mean, really, truly, what the hell is this madness? That the whole world was talking about this too. And that's my next criticism. Why in the world did anybody in their right mind give this any play whatsoever? And the first group I would look to as having failed on this is the palace. The fact that they even let this narrative be something that they would come out and apologize for is ridiculous. This is the problem. Nobody has a moral backbone. And nobody has any convictions. Everybody's waiting for the green light from everybody else. It's like, everybody's like, oh, wait, what's the temperature? What's the room say? What do I need to then say? Oh, we're deciding this is offensive now? Okay. I'm offended too. It was racism. Okay. It's not racist to ask somebody where they're from. It is one of the greatest compliments that you could pay somebody that you care enough to hear the answer. And For the palace to then, come up wringing their hands, oh, we're really sorry. This is really bad. We're really sorry. We've talked to her. She's out of the position. We don't want to, we're not gonna let her be in that position anymore. We just had no idea that something so awkward and terrible was going to take place. We would never have allowed this to happen to anybody. You should have just said, we stand by Lady Susan Hussey, who has always been a devoted member of our staff and a friend to our family, knowing that she did not mean anything racist by that. And it's unfortunate that other people would paint this wonderful lady in such a ugly light. She's always been a benefit to our family, and we are going to stand by her in the event of these really ugly allegations that do not paint an honest picture. And that's what they should have said. But instead, they let the situation boil up and boil up and boil up because they took a knee to the crowd. They said, oh, are you mad at us? Beat us harder, Oh, we didn't mean it, but okay, since you say that's what we meant, all right. If you didn't mean it and the lady wasn't being racist, then don't throw her under the bus and say, oh, if something racist must have happened since this person decided that it did. Well, did the feelings matter of Lady Susan Hussey? She didn't think it was racist. So since one person thinks it is. What about the opinions of the other person? Why does the white person's feelings not matter, but the person of darker skin, their feelings matter? Look, everybody's feelings matter. One person's feelings over the other, everybody can say their piece. Why was Lady Susan Hussey silenced? And why did everybody act like she had committed this big crime? I think at this, with this vantage point and this distance, is there anybody here who would now look at that and be like, yeah, that's pretty bad. She was just a really terrible racist old lady. I don't think so. But the palace wanted, they said, hey, we're really sorry this happened. They said it's unacceptable and it's deeply regrettable. And that they said, we have reached out to Ngozi Fulani on this matter and are inviting her to discuss all elements of her experience in person if she wishes. It went on to say that Hussey has stepped aside from her honorary role with immediate effect. The palace also failed to explain why Lady Susan had been put in such a role in the first place. An octogenarian and trusted advisor to the Queen, Hussey might have had respect from the family members, but it was unwise to put her in a public-facing position at an event with such a diverse crowd at a time when they needed to show some proof of modernization. What? So just because she's old, she has no right to be out in public? There's no way that that's an argument. She's an octogenarian. How dare she be there? This is supposed to be a diverse situation. Okay, well, is age not a diversifying factor? What? I'm so sickened by this. Well, now we get to the one point that Omid Scobie and I agree on. He says that the press offices in both royal households should be pumping out good news about the family, not countering allegations from their back foot and expending resources apologizing, fixing, and tap dancing around scandals. Yeah, I agree, but I think we agree from different directions. The first thing you don't do is apologize, because that's never going to be good enough. Never apologize to the mob. Ever. For any reason, apologize to the mob. Ever. Because they're just a bunch of bored people with nothing to do. So to placate them by saying, we're really sorry, says I am guilty of it. If you're not guilty of it, don't say you're sorry for it. I thought we were done talking about that, but no. He wants his final words on this whole situation to be that the Ngozi Fulani and Lady Susan Hussey scandal is proof that a monarchy so defined by its own superior, steadfast place in history lacks the agility and improvisational thinking to change with a rapidly transforming world. 17 days after the race scandal first made headlines, Fulani was finally invited to the Buckingham Palace to sit down with Hussey for a face-to-face conversation. The pair, I'm told, reluctantly agreed to allow palace officials to share a photo of their encounter with the media. According to a palace statement, the meeting was, quote, filled with warmth and understanding. Lady Susan offered her sincere apologies for the comments that were made and the distress they caused to Miss Fulani. Miss Fulani has accepted this apology and appreciates that no malice was intended. For the charity boss, who endured weeks of online trolling, violent threats, and defamatory remarks from radical right-wing media outlets, it all did little to heal her pain. And despite Buckingham Palace's claims that they too had apologized for the incident, Fulani revealed on March 8, 2023, that she never received a direct apology from the institution. But the institution didn't fail you. The person who you say offended you has sat with you and given you a face-to-face apology. So why does the institution as a whole need to apologize for the behavior of one person who did apologize to you? And the firm did organize a time for you to receive an apology. What more do you need? She says, if you're sorry, then tell me you're sorry, she said. I don't see why it's so hard to say I'm sorry. They did. That's why they arranged for you to sit down with Lady Susan Hussey, the lady who you said offended you. Oh my goodness. She says that if they could send her an invitation, then they know how to find her. So why is it so hard for them to say sorry? I'm not even following this line that I can't even follow her line of criticism here. You received an apology. You got it. What are you mad about? It says here that same day, International Women's Day, the activist announced that she would be stepping down from her charity due to safety concerns and continued harassment. Really? Okay. I mean, that if you're being harassed, potentially it's because you decided to make this a public conversation when you got on Twitter the night of the event and said, wasn't the best time I've ever had, and complained that somebody touched your dreadlocks and asked you where you were from. You invited the world to comment on it. So, maybe you're mad, but maybe you should be mad at yourself for taking a private situation to the public. If you're really mad that happened, you really felt injustice had been done, sure, reach out to the palace and say, I just want to let you know that there's a woman at your event who treated me in a way that I felt was really disrespectful. And it may behoove you not to have her around if she doesn't know how to behave according to present day cultural norms. But to get on Twitter and then be angry when people sounded off against you, you invited that criticism. You can't go into the public square and tell your story and then think that you're only going to receive one kind of feedback. You're inviting people from any angle to come in and say their piece about you. Regardless, it says here that Lady Susan returned to the royal fold, performing official duties on February 21st, attending a memorial service of a courtier on behalf of Princess Anne. In June, she was seen laughing and joking with Charles and Camilla in a monarch's box at the Royal Ascot, firmly back in the royals' inner circle. So, they obviously don't care that they have a racist in their midst. See, but that's the thing. That goes back to what I was saying. Don't apologize for the words that somebody said who had no intention of being racist. Because then when you do include her back in your fold, you've admitted that she's a racist. You've said she shouldn't have said that. They were incredibly offensive words. We can't believe she would do that. So now it does reflect poorly on you to have that person around. But if she's not a racist and you never believed she was, then you should have stood up for her in that moment. So that now when she's coming back around, you can boldly and freely have her around because she's not a racist. They're just continuing. They're kicking the can down the road by apologizing now because they're going to keep coming up against this issue with Lady Susan Hussey. I mean, does anybody really care what she's doing? No, it's just the naysayers, the whiners, and the complainers. But if you want to just weed out those annoying little voices that constantly keep coming back, don't give them anything to say. Shut them down. And that is our lesson for today. We're done with the chapter. Thank the Lord. Ironically, the next chapter is called, Oh God, I Hate This, and it's almost as though he can predict how we're feeling by this point.